Hi, everybody. Welcome to the April 19th Intentional Aging Program. I'd like to begin with a land acknowledgement. We would like to begin by acknowledging that the lands on which we live and gather are the appropriated homelands of Indigenous peoples. We want to express our deepest respect to those peoples, past and present, for their care of these lands throughout the generations. And that land acknowledgement is our shortened version. I do quarterly run our longer standard version, which does acknowledge the different tribes whose land we reside on. And without further ado, I would like to get moving forward with our presentation today. We have Jennifer Kulik, who is the CEO and founder of SilverKite Community Arts based out of Seattle. And I will hand things over to her and let her tell you a little bit more about what she does and what we're talking about today. So welcome. Thanks, Jen.
Thanks, Cheryl. Thanks so much for inviting me to come and join you today. It's so nice to see all of your faces, and it looks like there's sun. I'm in Seattle today, and it looks like there's sun and where you are. At least I'm seeing some in the windows behind you. So yay, that's wonderful, and welcome spring. So for today's session, we're going to be talking about play, and we're actually going to be doing some playing. Won't be too scary, I promise. But I'm wondering and requesting that if you happen to have a piece of paper lying around, or a couple pieces of paper lying around, and a pen or a pencil, something to write with or kind of draw a little bit with, that would be great. If you happen to have markers or colored pencils or crayons or chalk or anything in your immediate vicinity, that would be cool to use in our session today too. Not necessary if you don't have that with you, but if you do have that, that would be awesome. So I'll just give you a few seconds to get that going, and I'll go ahead and bring up our presentation. So we're going to be talking today about the importance of play throughout the lifespan. So my name again is Jen Kulik. I'm with SilverKite Community Arts in Seattle. So a little bit about me. As we've said 3 times, I'm the founder and CEO of SilverKite Community Arts. I'm an intergenerational arts specialist. So I did a PhD in the field of intergenerational theater and have worked as an educator for about 30 years in a variety of different capacities. I also am a Fulbrighter and was in Singapore doing intergenerational arts research in 2012. And SilverKite received the Generations United Intergenerational Innovation Award in 2019 for our innovations in intergenerational programming. And I'm also a breast cancer survivor. So hooray! And it just makes me extra excited to be with you here today. So a little bit about SilverKite Community Arts. Just a side note that all of the pictures that I have in this presentation are all SilverKite art. So they've been done in some of our programs. And so we just started a partnership with Knowles, and we'll be doing online programming once every other month. So keep an eye out for those programs available to you all. Free of charge. So this is just a little bit about what we do. We do intergenerational arts programs. We have been doing them virtually, and we're just now starting to do a little bit of in-person work again, which is really exciting. We have an intergenerational theater company, and our next production will tour in the fall of 2022. The performance will be called Phoenix, and I came up with the title before the pandemic, so it just fits oh so very well. And so the performances that we do are based on the life stories of the people in the cast. And so every cast member is from a different generation and also a different ethnic and cultural background. So it's a really wonderful performance piece. And what it's about, I can't tell you because we haven't created it yet, but that will be coming up in the fall. We also do arts classes. We also do professional development and consulting. So that's a little bit about me and about SilverKite. So let's go ahead and dive into our topic today. So this is what we're going to be talking about and playing with during our session today. We're going to first talk a little bit about definitions and some researchers who have done research around the concept of play and why it's important throughout the lifespan. We're going to do some playing and kind of use the definitions that these researchers have sort of provided for us, and then dive into these different types of play to give you a sense of what it kind of feels like. We'll be doing sort of our own research into play through this session today as well. And then we'll talk about some additional scientific studies and support of why engaging in play is important. And we'll brainstorm some ways to bring more play into your life and the lives of others. So that's the game plan. How does that sound for those of you who have your cool? All right, awesome. If there's anything else that you would like me to cover during the session today that I didn't bring up, or as we're going along, go ahead and just put that in the chat, and I'll keep my eye on the chat because I'd love to make sure that this session is as relevant and as interesting to you as possible, because otherwise, why are we doing it? It needs to be fun, right? Okay, so I want to share this quote with you from George Bernard Shaw, which is, "We don't stop playing because we grow old. We grow old because we stop playing." Wondering if anybody has any thoughts about that. Anybody want to share your a comment or a thought about that quote? Does that resonate with you? Any opinions about that? I'm seeing some nods. Okay, awesome, cool. So let me ask you this question, friends. How would you define play? So we're talking about play today, but what exactly is it? How would you define it? And feel free to raise your hand or unmute yourself and go ahead and share that with us, or you can contribute in the chat. Anybody have any ideas of what is play?
I think of it as being something where my mind can feel just kind of less boxed in, or, you know, just sort of more free with my brain. And it gives me just a good feeling all over. Awesome. A joyful feeling.
Thank you so much for sharing that. What was your name?
Deb.
Deb, thank you. Awesome. I can't see your name on the side of the thing there. Thanks, Deb, for sharing that. Anybody else want to add?
Hello.
Hi, Linda.
Hi.
I do see your name. Hi.
Because I didn't get to play when I was a child, and ever since I was able to start playing until I'm in my 70s now, when I play, I feel carefree, totally carefree, and I'm always seeking that feeling of just no responsibility, having fun, enjoying my surroundings and the people I'm with. And it's a great feeling.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing that, Linda.
You're welcome.
Marjorie, you have your hand up there, I see.
Yes, I do. And I think of play as engaging in an activity just for the sake of engaging in the activity without any big goal in mind, just to have fun.
Awesome. Thank you for that. And we will see, Marjorie, that there is a researcher that like exactly those words that you've said as how they define it. So thank you for that. Anybody else want to share? I've seen some things here in the chat. Let me see if I can bring that up. Less responsibility, more free form. Play makes me think of feeling joyful. I think of it being an active thing, a running, carefree, happy time. Awesome. All of these things are so light and joyful. Go ahead. I see somebody has their hand up, but I don't see your name, unfortunately.
Oh, this
Yeah.
is Paul. I have
Paul, there you are.
uh-oh, I pushed the wrong button. Hang on a second here. Yeah, I think it's interesting because I really pondered when I saw the title of this play, because to me, also play is like, it can be challenging. It can come with like, because I think of like playing sports or playing a card game or playing solitaire in the morning. You know, there's sometimes you win, sometimes you lose. And I was thinking about how like wild animals, when you see the little young wild animals playing, they're like acting out the things that happen in life, but in kind of a frivolous way with no consequences. And that's kind of what I think of it, is like, you're doing something that's basically frivolous and has no bigger consequences. It's not a life or death situation, hopefully, usually, unless you're a professional football player or something. But it also like takes you through some of the challenges of life. It lets you work through the problem solving of life without having to worry about the really big picture kinds of problems. So yeah, it comes with its ups and downs. You have like the joy of winning and the joy of fellowship, but sometimes it's hard. Sometimes it's challenging. Thank you.
Thank you, Paul. Thank you for that. Anybody else have anything they'd like to share? Okay. If you think of something as we go on, go ahead and enter that in the chat. We'd love to see your comments there. I wanted to share with you, so we heard some really beautiful definitions of play from Deb and Linda, Marjorie and Paul about play maybe being something that kind of helps you navigate life or allows you to sort of step out of time and makes you feel good and feel joyful. Maybe food for the brain, helps feed your brain. And also you might be doing it without really any purpose specifically in mind. And all of these things encompass what we talk about is as is play, right? So these are a few researchers that I wanted to share their work with you briefly to kind of contextualize the definition that we'll be working with for the rest of our session here today. And we'll actually start by talking about Mildred Parton, who many think was sort of the foundational researcher into this field. And she did her PhD in 1932. And what she did was hang out on a playground and watch children play. And as we just have learned from these different definitions of play, play had sort of different kinds of functions, she observed. And she said that there were 6 different stages or different types of play. And this was all based on the way that children were using play as a tool to have fun, navigate social relationships, etc. So she sort of serves as kind of our foundational researcher in this field. So following her, we have a couple of different researchers. The next one I want to talk about is Brian Sutton Smith. And he was an Australian researcher that was one of the first play researchers to look at play as an important tool and gift that is a wonderful thing for us to do throughout our lifespan into adulthood. So he looked at Erik Erikson's stages of development and also Mildred Parton's work and thought about how play was actually really helpful in contributing to the way that we develop as people throughout our lives. Because as we all know, we are still developing throughout our lifespan, right? So Brian Sutton Smith was the first person in this field to get us to talk about that. And his work came out in the 60s and 70s mostly. And then Stuart Brown is the more contemporary researcher into the National Institute of Play. He founded, it's on the East Coast. He also wrote a book called Play, which is an interesting book around the research in the fields, and is continuing Brian Sutton Smith's work and research and really trying to sort of lead a movement to encourage people to play all throughout their lives. I want to also mention here Shepard Siegel, who is a Seattle-based writer, and he wrote a really interesting book. So Paul just brought up sports. Shepard Siegel just sports as a form of play. And Shepard Siegel wrote a book about how professional sports is moving us away from our original play mode. And so because of that, we are sort of moving away from the benefits of play. That's his argument in the book. Whether or not you agree with that, I don't know, but he is starting a conversation about categorizing play as original play and then cultural play, like how we've sort of commodified play. So wanted to share those researchers with you to kind of frame their work, and also the comments that we just have heard from a couple of the participants today about what our kind of working definition of play is today. So a process and not a thing. So Marjorie just beautifully explained that in her comment just a minute ago. Self-chosen and self-directed. So we're making the choice to do it, and we're deciding what we want to do when we are engaging in play. The focus is on the experience, and it doesn't necessarily have to have a purpose or a product. It's pleasurable. So many people just shared their experiences around that. It might take you out of time, so you are in that moment. There are a lot of researchers that talk about sort of, when you start to do something and you really are enjoying the thing that you're working on, whether it be cooking or watching something or engaging in different kinds of things, that sort of moment where you kind of forget what time it is, and you look up and you're like, oh my gosh, 3 hours have gone by, is called flow. And so there are several researchers that have talked about that thing. Active but not stressful. I think Paul raises a really good question about around that, about that kind of stress of winning and engaging in these kind of games, and sort of using play as a way to help us navigate some problems and issues. So even though that's on there, Paul, you've made me think about that, so I might take that off in the future. So thank you for raising that question. And then there are also several different kinds of play. So we'll talk about what those are in just a moment, based on the researchers. So let me ask you this question. Now that we've talked about what play is, when was the last time you played? So if anybody wants to share that, and what did you do? You can share that in the chat, or you can also just open up your microphone. We'd love to hear from you. Anybody want to contribute the last time you played?
Well, I'm going to say like 15 minutes ago before we started. And what's interesting is I was literally shoveling soil into my garden. But for me, most of the time it feels like play, unless I'm thinking, oh, I have to get this done in a time frame, but it can feel very playful and enjoyable.
Awesome. Thanks for sharing, Deb.
I'll
Go ahead, Paul.
I just think it's funny because when you said that, I don't know if it's the last time, but my granddaughter, who's 8, comes over to our house and she goes, "Grandpa, play with me." And the never ending chant, "Grandpa, play with me." And so we have a game called balloon baseball, and we blow up a balloon and play like a micro baseball game in the living room. And she loves it. She loves that silly game, and it's like, it's fun. I take it in small doses, but she can't get enough of it.
Nice. Thank you. Thank you. There's some really wonderful comments in the chat. So we have "with my dogs every day," Saturday coloring Easter eggs, and Sunday hiding them. Nice. And then a question: does walking to the park to watch children and dogs play count? Yes, and we're going to talk about that in just a second. And then that would be yesterday. So yes, it does count. It is called unoccupied play, and we're going to talk about that in just a second. And then another comment here: I just got out my miniature Zen garden. Nice, 3 by 3 inches. I spend way too much time playing computer games. Me too. I have a problem with online solitaire. I really enjoy doing that one. All right, awesome. Thanks everybody for sharing those. So let's talk a little bit about the categories of play. So I mentioned these researchers, and we're going to particularly talk about the research of Mildred Parton, Brian Sutton Smith, and Stuart Brown. So the three of them, started by Mildred Parton, kind of categorize play. So play can be different kinds of things in different circumstances. So all of the things that you have just shared about the kinds of play that you engage in kind of fit into some of these categories. So some of these researchers have 8 or 9 categories. Some of them have 5. So I've kind of combined them together just to make it easier for us to navigate through this by looking at 5 different types of play. So they're listed here. We're going to go through each of these and kind of play around with each of them in different kinds of ways, so you get a sense of what they are. Okay, so the first is unoccupied play. Second is body play. Third is object play. Fourth is imaginative play. And fifth is social play. So I saw there was a comment about playing with others is really enjoyable too. That was a comment I saw in the chat as well. Okay, so let's play. So the first thing we're going to do is talk about unoccupied play. So what unoccupied play is basically the act of observing other people play and engage in play. And so it can be pleasurable and joyous to watch other people doing something and being playful for you, the viewer of this as well. So we're going to watch this very short 1-minute intergenerational dance experience. And you're going to have an opportunity to engage in unoccupied play here for just a moment. So take a look. Okay, so that was just a moment of watching a group of people dancing together, a moment of us engaging in unoccupied play. I'm curious about how you feel after having just watched that 1 minute. Yeah, and you can put that in the chat, or if you feel like you'd like to open up your microphone, happy to.
I was actually being occupied while I was watching.
Awesome.
Because,
Awesome.
I was, like moving my hands and tapping on the table and stuff like that. It's almost dancing along with them in my chair because it was very inviting.
Awesome. Awesome. Thank you. Thank you. Love that comment. Thanks. Yeah, a couple other people were saying like you wanted to join in. I'm seeing some thumbs up. Anybody else have any reactions you want to share? Okay. Marjorie, go ahead.
Oh, well, it just put a smile on my face immediately. I really enjoyed it.
Nice. Thank you. Thank you. Linda, you had your hand up too.
I noticed that in the beginning, hardly anybody was smiling, but at the end, they were all smiling and it looked really, really cool.
Thank you. I felt that too as I was watching it. It sort of took me a minute to sort of get into the feeling of the dancing. But as you're seeing these other people enjoying themselves, you sort of get that energy, I feel, out of that experience. So this experience we've just had is what these play researchers have called unoccupied play. We're not, well, some of us might have been dancing along, but we're not in the circle with them. We are observing them there. So anyway, this is a quick definition of unoccupied play. Engaging in play by watching others play or seeing the result of play. And so here are some ways to engage in unoccupied play. Touring a museum. So you're observing other people's artwork that they've made, watching a performance, watching others play sports, children on a playground, online resources, webcams. If you haven't checked out the San Diego Zoo Panda Cam, good one. Also videos of creating and listening to music are all ways to engage in unoccupied play. So we'll move on to the next type of play, which is a body play. And Deb, I'm thinking about what you were saying before about really enjoying shoveling the soil, moving the soil, and that's kind of a body play thing, because you're using your body to engage in doing something. I love that image. So what body play is engaging in play by using primarily your body. Here are some types of body play: dance, sports, yoga, and now I've been inspired also to put in gardening, I think, on this line as well. It's really just using your body primarily to engage with the world and with yourself. So here is an activity I'd like us to try together along this body play sort of idea. So this is an activity that's called plastiques, and we're going to sort of use it to morph into frozen pictures. So whatever is comfortable for you, you can also, if you don't want to participate in this, you can also engage in unoccupied play and watch us doing this together. I'm going to stop sharing my screen for a second so we can see each other for whomever would like to participate and have their camera on. So what I'd like you to do is choose a body part that we can see. So either your face, your hands, or your shoulders, or your arms. And I'd like you to choose one of those body parts. I'm going to use my hands for this activity. And I just want you to take a minute and see how you can move that body part. Just explore for a minute in your own space. What are some kind of shapes and movement you can do? And what I'd like you to do is, as you are exploring here, maybe create some kind of image or picture with the body part you have chosen. So for example, with my hands, I might choose to create a tree or something else. Just take a second. Let's play a little bit. Okay, so go ahead and show us an image of that, something you have discovered or created. It can move if you like. Okay, beautiful. Thank you. Thank you. So we all have engaged in a type of body play just now. Anybody have any comments they'd like to share? Any mood shift or energy level shift or anything shift for you in just doing that? I'm seeing more smiles, which is cool.
Yeah.
Laura, did you want to say something?
Yeah, just you're right. For that couple of seconds, my shoulders are down. I'm not trying to do it right, because that other video that we saw, all the people didn't care if they messed it up. They were just having a good time.
Yeah.
Going back and forth instead of all carefully recovering ballerina in my childhood.
Exactly. Thanks for sharing that, Laura. Anybody else have anything they'd like to share? Okay, all right. So now we have explored a little bit of body play as well as unoccupied play. So let's dive in further here, friends. And we're gonna go into object play. So if you have markers around you, you can also do this with a pen or a pencil. We're gonna do a little bit of object play for this next thing. So a couple of other comments I'm seeing in the chat. My hands are less stiff. Oh, that's awesome. Felt good to move those hands. I didn't realize just moving my arms feels fun. Oh, yay. How wonderful to share movement with others and not feel inhibited. It felt good moving my shoulders and arms, which don't get enough movement in general use. Awesome. Thank you for sharing those comments. Cool. So we're going to jump into talking about object play. So this is a different kind of play here. So engaging play using objects, right? So some ideas here. Card games, you're using the cards to play, visual arts, video games, I think, cooking, playing a musical instrument. You're using something else to engage in play. So that is what object play is. So let's do some. We're going to do this goofy activity, and let's just do it together because it's fun and also goofy. So let's try. I'm going to tip my computer down so you can see what I'm doing with the paper. So basically, I'll talk you through this. And we're just going to create a character on our papers. If we were in person, we might play this type of activity. And if you have grandkids or other young people in your lives, you could even do this around a dinner table or after dinner or something as a way to play together. And I'll lead you through this as we do it. So I'm just going to tip my computer down here a little bit so you can see my paper. Okay. So if you have a marker, cool. If you have a pen, also great. Whatever object you can use to write with is fine. Okay, so your first task is to draw a line, a straight line. Any length, any kind, vertical or horizontal, whichever way you'd like it to go. Okay? So the next task is to draw a curvy line that is connected to the first line. So I'm going to choose to connect it here, but you can connect it in the middle or whatever way you like. Okay, so that's my curvy line. Okay, our next task is to draw a zigzag line connected to the first two lines. So I think I'm going to do something like this. And yours, of course, will look however you have it is great. Okay, so we're on the fourth task here. So now, you know, if you feel like you want to connect some of the lines together that you've drawn, you can go ahead and do that. I might want to do this. Just going to add a little triangle there. Okay. Maybe I'll add a little bit here. Okay. So whatever you'd like to do to connect your lines together. So this, my friends, is a creature that you have created in front of you. So I'd like to invite you to create an opportunity for this creature to move, see, hear, and eat. So somehow this thing has to move. So you can draw whatever you like. I'm going to draw some feet. And again, we're just doing this for fun. There's no right or wrong answer. These look, if any of you are musicians, these look sort of like B flats or something. And I think I'm going to make this my face. I'm going to add an eyeball and maybe a nose. Maybe this is a beak. That's what we're gonna do. All right. This will be some tail. Okay. And then we're gonna go ahead and name our characters. So I'm gonna call this one, this character's name is going to be going to name the creature K Cree. Yep, that is the name of the creature. Okay, so with this, just really fun exercise in creating a character, you have created an opportunity for storytelling, for a cartoon, for a piece of music, for a dance experience. So this character you've created may have a life outside of this page. And it's just a fun way to just sort of let fear of the visual arts go, because I know that for me personally, doing visual art is a scary thing because I have been told that I'm not a great artist, but this kind of activity is fun. And if you're just slowly doing things step by step, it's really easy, and there's no right or wrong answer to this. So this is my creature called K Cree. Here it is. So I'm just curious if anybody else would like to share their creatures. Okay, so Linda, let me stop the screen so we can see people's faces in a much larger way. Okay, Linda, beautiful. Linda, could you share with us the name of your creature that you've created there?
My creature's name is Merkel,
Right on.
and he's
Beautiful.
very hungry,
Awesome.
and
What
he
is
has shoes.
I like it. What does Merkel like to eat?
He likes to eat mangoes.
Right on. Awesome. Thank you, Linda. Great. Anybody else want to share their creatures that they created? Awesome. Sandra, do you want to unmute and share a little bit?
Well, I did it with a pen, so you can't see it
Perfect.
very well, I don't think, but I named it Elred, which is my dad's middle name. And so it felt like somebody that would like to swim with me or creep around the house. Maybe he's a vacuum, one of those vacuum cleaners that goes around and
Oh, good.
vacuums by itself. It's a robot.
I love it.
Maybe it might have ability to hug, but he's certainly smiling.
Oh, I love it. Thank you. Thanks for introducing us to Eldred. Thank you. All right, Marjorie, who you got there?
I've got Spitty, and Spitty likes to walk on the beach and on the street, and he spits at garbage and it disappears.
Hey, that's awesome. Thanks, Marjorie. I love it. I love it. We've had Eldred, we've had Spitty, we've had Merkel. Who else would like to share? Jane, would you like to share? Jane, you're muted. We'd love to hear what you'd like to say.
There's that. Well,
Perfect.
I'm having a little trouble with my camera. She was in focus there for a minute. Can anybody see it? Oh, shoot. Oh, there, look. It's the camera, all right.
Yeah, do you have a background, like your background blurred? That might be what's doing it.
Oh, yeah, it is. Was I supposed to? Oh,
If you
I
turn
see
that
what you
off,
mean.
it might focus on it. Yeah. It's showing.
And do I do that up on view?
Under, let's see. It's like your background. You want to unblur your background.
I don't know how.
Under video, where it says stop
Oh.
video, if you click up, there should be a blur or unblur my background. Next to the stop video, do the up arrow. And then is there an option that says unblur my background?
Yes.
Hey.
This is Ruthie, and she has her new Easter dress she went out in the front yard in the brief sunshine and was twirling. And then she discovered it felt really good to run down the street. So there she goes. Kind of like my dog does when he gets out.
Beautiful.
Whoosh.
Beautiful.
There.
Thank you for sharing that, Jane.
Thank you for telling me how to turn the blur off.
Thank
Hey,
you.
we all learned something new today on the Zoom only.
Awesome. Anybody else want to share their pictures with us?
Well, I've got
Okay.
this, and it was not easy to make it into a creature, but I've called it Scrog, and it doesn't have any background at this moment, but it might
Awesome.
at some point in time.
I love Scrog. Thank you for sharing that, Evelyn. Awesome. Cool. All right. Thanks everybody for sharing. Fantastic. Great. Let's jump back to our PowerPoint. We're going to skip that drawing music thing. I'll just tell you what it is. If you'd like to try it another time, but we'll skip doing it for now. So basically, if you have a bunch of markers with you, you can engage in this activity, which is super fun. If you play a piece of music, and as the music begins, just pick one of the colors you have next to you, and then just let your pen fly or your marker fly as you're listening to the music, and see what you come up with, right? And so maybe you've got a bunch of markers next to you, and so you can switch your markers around as the music goes on, and then you can add other pieces of music and add more drawings to your piece. Okay, so that's another really fun kind of playful object play activity. So let's go now to an imaginative play, which is another kind of play activity. And imaginative play is when you are engaging in play by using your creativity and your imagination. So we've already just started to do that in creating these creatures, right? We used object play first to create the creature, and then we've used our imagination to develop some names and stories perhaps about the creature. So here are some ways to engage in play by using your creativity or your imagination. So writing poems, poetry, short stories, reading a novel, charades, cosplay, doing improv theater, all of those things you're using your imagination to create settings and characters and stories and other situations that don't exist in reality. So let's do an activity around imaginative play. This is going to be fun. I can tell because I love this group. So here's how this goes. So for this activity, we're going to use a technique that is called time slips. And so the idea of this is we are going to be co-writing a story based on the image that is in front of us. Okay, so I'm just going to start by asking some questions, and there are no right or wrong answers, and absolutely everything that everyone is going to suggest is going to go into our story. And I'm going to write it down with a better pen than what I just picked up, and then I'll read it back to you. Okay. So my first question for you is, where shall we say that these people are? Where are these people? Okay, we got tons of things in the chat. Oh, what is cosplay? Oh, thank you, Cheryl, for answering that question in there. Okay, they're in Squim Bay. Okay, so, and how are these people related to each other? No right or wrong answer here. We're just making this up as we go along using our imaginations. Okay, so we have some grandparents and grandchildren, and they are in Squim Bay. What is the name of the gentleman pointing off of the picture?
Rick.
Rick, Roger. I also have Roger. So we're going to call him
Roger, let's go with Roger.
Roger, Rick, Roger. Okay, good. All right. And there's also perhaps Roger, Rick, Roger is also a tour guide with 3 tourists. So they are a family of grandparents and grandchildren in Squim Bay. Roger, Rick, Roger is perhaps a tour guide by day who is leading 3 tourists. And what is he pointing at?
A whale.
A whale. Okay. And what kind of whale is it?
A gray whale in Squim Bay.
Awesome.
Gray
So
whale
we
could
have
be in
somebody
Squim Bay.
contributing in the chat, an orca. We'll say an orca or a gray whale. All right, awesome. And what does the little girl on the right? Oh, cool. Okay, so also a whale, orca or a gray whale, and Mount Baker showing herself. What's the name of the young girl in the picture? Anybody have any ideas?
Sarah.
Sarah. Okay, what does Sarah think about all this?
She's interested, but she's got her ice cream cone tipping. She better watch it.
He's not
Awesome.
smiling.
She does look slightly unimpressed.
Okay.
Maybe it's too small.
The ice cream is too small?
No, the whale.
Ah, okay.
Not a gray whale then.
Okay, awesome. So her name is Sarah Sherry, and she is mildly curious, and Sarah's getting cold.
Yes.
Awesome. Okay, cool. So we'll go ahead and just finish our story for the moment. Anybody have a fabulous last line you want to share? How could we end our story?
There's a baby.
Go ahead, Deb.
There's a baby whale.
Awesome. Okay, so friends, here's the story that we created. This is a group of grandparents and grandchildren. It's a family that is on Squim Bay. Roger, Rick, Roger is a tour guide by day. And so he has brought his family on sort of a tour. He is spotting a whale, could be an orca or a gray whale, and Mount Baker is showing herself. Sarah Sherry is interested, but she's got ice cream that's tipping, so she better watch it. She's not really that interested because the whale is really small. She's getting cold, but a good time was had by all. Look, there's a baby whale, happy to be on the water. Hooray. That was fun. Nice job, everybody. So this is an example of imaginative play that we just engaged in together. Really fun. So another activity for imaginative play, and this also is a really lovely object play activity too, and especially this time of year as we're, maybe cleaning up our gardens or being outside a little bit more than we have been. Taking a walk in your neighborhood and gathering pieces of nature, sticks, leaves, flower buds, flowers themselves, and then creating a portrait with the objects. So using the objects that you find to create a creature or a face. You can also do this with magazines. And so let me show you some examples of what I mean by that. So these are some examples of some nature portraits. So just gathering some leaves and berries, and then, adding a little bit of drawing here, but just a playful way to engage and interact with nature through object play and also imaginative play. Okay. So Another category of play is called social play. And so somebody at the beginning of our session said that play is more fun with other people. And so I will go ahead and stop sharing my screen here so we can see each other on the screen and engage in a little bit of social play. So this is kind of an icebreaker-y game, and it helps us get to know each other, but it's also kind of fun. So for those of you who would like to participate in this, all you have to do is raise your human hand. So let's just practice that for a second. Human hands. Beautiful. Okay. So if I'm going to make a statement, and if this statement is true for you, just raise your human hand. Okay. So my first question is, I have been 5 years old. If you were at one time 5 years old in your life, yay, all right, we all got that one in common. Cool. All right, next one is, my favorite season of the year is spring. And if that is true for you, go ahead and raise your hand. If it's not, just leave your hand down. Okay, kind of, some of you, awesome. My favorite season of the year is winter. Okay, okay. My favorite season of the year is summer. Okay, how about fall? Oh, interesting. Awesome. I am a musician. If you are a musician, raise your hand. Kinda. All right, cool. I enjoy traveling. Awesome. I was born in Washington State. I was not born in Washington State. Okay, awesome. I have ridden on an airplane. Awesome. I enjoy reading. Everyone on the screen, cool. Anybody have any statements they'd like to ask the group?
Let's see.
I love the rain.
Thank you. Anybody else?
I love cats.
I love the library and dogs we have in the chat. Yeah, that's good. That's great. Awesome. Thank you.
I've ridden a camel.
Ridden a camel? Wow. Where did you do that, Jane?
In Egypt, near the the famous Sphinx and the 3 pyramids.
Oh, very
You pretty
cool.
much have to.
Very cool. I traveled there once and wanted to do that, but I hurt myself. I hurt my back when I was inside of the pyramid because it was such a.
Oh,
So I didn't get to ride on the camel.
oh.
Ah, okay. Anybody else have a statement they'd like to ask? Evelyn.
I love cats.
I love cats.
Yay. Not as many as dog lovers.
Right.
Okay, we gotta yeah. Okay, what would you like to ask?
I love sitting on the beach.
Nice. Thank you. Anybody else have a comment or something that you'd like to ask the group?
I've kayaked on salt water.
Wow.
Wow.
I have.
Cool. Nice. Nice.
I
Awesome.
like hiking.
Sorry, Sandra, what was that one? One more time.
I like hiking, walking.
Great. Awesome. Thank you. So this was a really fun, easy, playful activity that we learned things about each other. And I want to ask you all about all of the things you just shared with us. It's a way for us to get to know each other and also engage in play together, right? So that is an example of social play. Another activity just to share for you as you are going along your day and are thinking about this, hopefully after we're here together, is doing a rock hunt. Maybe some of you are already rock painters or involved in Kay, I'm seeing you nod your head. Awesome. Involved in a rock group in your community. But it's really fun to create rocks, and you can do that with acrylic paint pens and hide the rock in your community, and maybe join a local rock group and have a sort of a treasure hunt as you're looking for rocks, or sharing those with other members of the community. Yeah. Kay, do you want to share a little bit about your experience with doing that?
I'm in a group with quilters, but we do other crafts sometimes too. And sometimes we just get together with all our paint pens and paints and paint rocks and hide them different places around Squim. And sometimes, like, I had them come and visit one time, I guess it was before the pandemic. No, we were on my deck, so it was during the pandemic. And afterwards, when I went outside, I realized that a couple of the people had hidden rocks around my house.
Oh, wow.
That had special messages on them.
Oh, that's so beautiful. That's so nice. Thank you for sharing that. That's awesome. As you were talking, Kay, I was just remembering this. I don't know if it still exists, but there's this website that used to exist called Where's George? I don't know if any of you have heard of this, but have you heard of it? Yeah, and you can sort of track where your dollar bills have traveled, which is really pretty cool. Has any of you tried that before?
Mhm.
Yeah, you have, Jane? Nice.
Yes, I have, but I didn't. After a while, I just stopped going and checking.
Yeah, me too. That's why I'm wondering if it's still there. But I think it's pretty cool, that idea of, like, hiding, and that sort of connection to other people through an object, which is really kind of a cool thing.
That's like geocaching too.
Yeah, exactly. I tried that for the first time last summer, and it was so fun. It was really fun. Yeah. So let me ask you this question. We've been playing now together for almost an hour. How do you feel?
Okay.
Yeah, good.
Yeah. Relaxed, good. And so the question then for you is, how do you currently use play in your own life, and what do you want to try?
Well,
Open to creativity, we have in the chat. Thank you. I see in the chat also, I was most appreciative of inspirational rocks at the cancer center in Squim when my husband had cancer. Thank you for sharing that. The cancer center where I received treatment, they have gnomes. They have like a hole in the wall. It's really the best part. Best part. Thank you for sharing that.
This is Cheryl. Anyway, I went to a couple of women's soccer matches last year when they were playing in Tacoma, and my oldest and I decided to buy season tickets. So there's a lot of matches to drive to Lumen Field for, but it has been super fun. One, just watching the enjoyment. I mean, the players are competitive, clearly, but you just see how much they love what they're doing. And it's just, one of those, I'm not very good at taking time to just be. And that couple hours that we're at a match, I don't really think about anything else. I just am really watching their game, seeing how much they're enjoying themselves. And it's just a great way to kind of to play. And, you have the right term. I don't have the right term off the top of my head.
Unoccupied play.
Unoccupied. Yeah. So watching sports is really fun. Yeah.
Awesome. Okay, I want to share with you a couple of just additional points here around the science of play, because we haven't talked about much of that in this presentation. I just want to share that with you. just a couple of points here. So there are several researchers outside of the field of play studies, cognitive psychologists in particular, talk about how engaging in play allows people to experiment, rehearse, and create new narratives and possibilities. This is exactly what Paul was talking about at the beginning of our presentation today. So Jerome Bruner and Stuart Brown are a couple of the researchers that have talked about that. So that's a way that play can be used in order to help kind of understand and navigate life. Play supports cognitive and social development and evolution. So Erik Erikson, Charles Darwin, Brian Sutton Smith have all done research in this arena. And as you know, we are developing throughout our lifespans. And so play continues to help us to understand and make meaning of the world and our lives that in whatever stage of life we are in. It can support emotional health and societies. Stuart Brown has done research around these points. And I wanted to share with you, this is Erik Erikson's developmental life stages. So as I was talking about, play really can help navigate different developmental stages. And so as you can see, preschool, school age, adolescent, young adulthood, middle adulthood, maturity, infancy, early childhood. So it's just the cycle of life that I really like this circle here that was created by a group called Very Well, but it got a little cut off here. So each of these sort of questions, Erik Erikson says that at these different points of our life, we're sort of navigating these different kinds of questions. You know, for example, in middle adulthood, how can you be continuing to contribute to society and continuing to develop and make things and grow as a human, as a person, as a family, etc., versus stagnation, being kind of stuck, right? And so on and so on. And so all of these questions, play can help us kind of dig in and understand better during our lifespan. There's a report from the World Health Organization around the arts, which we've engaged in several arts-based play opportunities during this presentation, that the arts can improve health and well-being. So play and the arts really go hand in hand. And so the World Health Organization took a ton of different studies from around the world and put them together in this compendium, which shows briefly two broad areas of positive impact. First is for prevention and promotion of health. So increasing positive health outcomes, as well as in management and treatment of health. Both of these areas, the arts and play, really are beneficial for health. The World Health Organization has shared as well. So I'm just gonna sort of skip these here, and I'm happy to share my slides with you if you're interested in having them. But there are a bunch of additional studies that have been coming out over the last couple of years around how playing really can decrease stress. Several of you mentioned those points earlier in our presentation today. So I know I'm at 1 minute, so I'll go ahead and share with you just a couple of sort of tips or encouragements, I guess, to leave you with at the end of the presentation, to get you thinking about ways to play every day. And the title of this presentation is about permission to play. So we all just played together for the better part of an hour, which was really fun. But I think a lot of times people think about play as being something that younger people do, children, infants, etc. But it's really valuable, important, and beneficial to play at any point in our lives. So giving yourself permission to do it, I think, is really an important thing. Julia Cameron wrote a really great book called, I'm seeing the cover and the name is escaping me, it'll come back to me in a second, about about sort of re-tapping into your creativity. And she invites you to reflect on times that you have played in the past that you've enjoyed, or if there were moments that you wish you could have played, this is the chance for you to try them now. And then here are a bunch of different kinds of ideas of ways to, you know, bring more play into your life on an everyday basis. So I'll go ahead and stop sharing my screen now, and we'll open it up to questions. And I'm happy to share these slides if people are interested in that. Cheryl, I can just.
Yeah, that would be great. Thank you.
Okay, cool.
Marjorie, looks like you had your hand up.
Oh, yeah, I do. And I did an informal study of the types of things you do as a kid. So one of the things I did as a young child was I lined up my teddy bears and dolls and I played teacher. And then I became a teacher. I was a college professor.
Awesome.
So I started asking people about the things that they really liked to do as a kid. And I got answers like, yeah, I played librarian as a little kid, checking out books. And yes, I became a librarian. I heard from a good friend of mine, they always went to her cousin's house and they had to play funeral. And their cousin was always the funeral director. And guess what he became? I mean, he lived on a ranch out in western South Dakota. I mean, there was no family history of doing that. So I guess I'm wondering, Jen, since you've studied this area, have there been any studies on that kind of issue?
That's Marjorie, thank you for asking the question. The short answer is I'm not sure. There could be, but I will say that there are folks like Jerome Bruner, who was a cognitive psychologist,
right?
Awesome, loves writing, who really talked about, you know, play as a tool for meaning making and writing narratives about life. And so there might be some tie there. It'll be a really cool PhD dissertation if we can get somebody to do that. And maybe somebody's already written it, but I'm not sure, Marjorie. And I love that question, and I'm actually going to do research about that. So thank you for that. I'm going to dig in there and see if I can find something. Thank you. Yeah, Sandra.
I was wondering, what kind of play does your research show that you do in end of life care? I'm taking care of a paraplegic husband who's active right now. He can drive himself and all that, but we're getting older, and we don't really play together. We love each other, but what would end of life care play be? What would that be?
That's a wonderful question. So there have been a lot of studies that have been done, and a lot of people, so the studies being action research studies, meaning that they're investigating sort of things that people are trying and seeing the effect of them. And so some of the things that people have been trying have been around music, and also visual art, if the person's able to do that. But music really can spark memory and really ignite parts of the brain in the way. Yeah, there's a really beautiful documentary about music and memory. Yeah, it's awesome.
I've seen that video, and I can highly recommend it. It is really amazing. I'd forgotten that.
Yeah, so that's really wonderful. Finding ways for people to communicate, if communicating verbally is not possible, is a beautiful gift. And so the arts are a really wonderful tool to help with that. So things like making music together. If you have like a little egg shaker, so you can create, or a drum to play along with the song. If you're able to just, move your hands around, just simple things like we just tried and did together. Painting, particularly watercolor painting, is really a beautiful and soothing sort of way to engage with the arts, and simple as well. And it also provides an outlet for people who may not be able to communicate verbally to express themselves at that point of their lives.
Thank you.
Hope that's helpful. Thanks. Hi, Kay.
Just wanted to mention that my husband had dementia toward the end, and one thing that he used to enjoy was when I'd bring a small box of stuff from his shop in, like a bunch of screws and washers and this and that, and he could stack them up and play with them, and some odd things that I'd find in various places. He'd look at it and he'd say, well, I wonder what this was for, and he used to enjoy that a lot.
Thank you for sharing that, Kay. That's awesome. Oh, thank you, Cheryl. That was the title of the book I was trying to figure out. Yes, The
Okay.
Artist's Way. That was it.
Perfect.
Thank you for that.
Yeah. I'm going to go ahead and hit stop on the recording just to let you know real quick, and then, but we still have a few minutes left.